All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever the heck you are, whatever the heck you're doing. I am glad that you are tuned in to some fun. Hey, today we're going to talk to Scott Ayres. Scott is a content marketing genius, a social media ninja, and all sorts of other good stuff. But really, he's just a really good guy that's really smart, knows a lot about all the different social media channels. He wrote a book all about Facebook, and he is just wicked smart because he loves to bust myths. And we're going to talk about some of these crazy myths today and a lot of fun. So what's up, Scott? I'm glad you're here, man.
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on. We were just talking about how warm it is today for end of November. Ugh.
Yeah. You say, So our friends back north, though, are probably saying, you bastards,
Yeah,
don't
right.
talk about warm weather. We have so, yeah. So
our air conditioner was on this morning. That's,
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think I might have turned my heater on for an hour the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks, man, but I survived winter.
Right.
I'll make it another year. So man, tell me what the heck's going on at Agora Pulse before we get into the whole social media lab. What's, for those who don't know, what is Agora Pulse and what do you do?
Agora Pulse basically is a social media management platform. So beyond the scheduling, there's tons of tools that'll let you schedule content. We do that, of course, but and we do some of it differently. Like you can schedule to Instagram without using your phone, which you can just do it direct publishing if you have a business account. That's key. But from there, it's more about managing the comments, the mentions on Twitter, the messages you get on Facebook or or Twitter. Handling your ad comments on Facebook and Instagram, which is hard. You can't do anywhere else. And we actually now can help you manage your stream on LinkedIn. So people are leaving comments in your LinkedIn posts. You can actually moderate those. So that's kind of what most people probably use it for. From there, you can do a lot of other crazy stuff like follow keywords, follow your competitors. Like our biggest competitors are Hootsuite and Sprout Social. We don't mind saying who they are. And I follow people who are complaining about them in our app on Twitter. That way I can offer an alternative solution. So it's kind of a ninja way to kind of go after sales. So just a lot of stuff like that you can do with the app that is super cool. Our main clients are agencies and large companies, even though we do a lot of small entrepreneurs and stuff. But that tends to be our thrust is those, people who have a big team because they need 15 team members on the account because they're Budweiser or something like that. So that's kind of our thrust. And our company is based out of Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. I've been to both. The Eiffel Tower in Paris, Texas has a cowboy hat on top of it.
Of course it does.
Which is really, really funny. We went to that one first. But we're based out of Paris. We're a remote first team though. But there's about 12 to 15, I think, that are in Paris that work in our offices most of the time. And the rest of us I think we're in 12 different time zones now. So it's a challenge with about 45 people to get team meetings together. And but marketing's all in the US and I'm on the marketing team. So we're all in the US. So we're at least within a few hours of each other time zone wise, which makes life a little bit easier. But yeah, it's a fun team to be a part of.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. So you've been at a couple of these other companies as well. And so how, you said something, though, that I think is important when people think about these other companies, and that is you can do a lot of this stuff inside the app. I don't have to go to the platform in order to do that, which is a big deal. And the whole myth that, you shouldn't schedule content. The answer is you shouldn't schedule crappy content.
Right.
Really clear, right? Because you're in the social media labs. I mean, didn't you run a test that showed that it doesn't matter if it's scheduled or not, if it's good quality content, that it'll get seen anyway?
Exactly. Yeah. Our very first test actually was testing the myth that third-party apps are punished by Facebook. Because a lot of people have said that. There's a couple of reports out there from BuzzSumo that lump in crappy content. I almost said worse, but I don't know if this is PG or not. But we lump in all the crappy content with marketing content and look bad. So we found that in reality that with what's on Facebook, the posts from apps actually were like 20% higher reach, just sometimes by happenstance. I don't think that'll happen every time, of course, and we can't guarantee you can get higher reach. But what it showed to me was there's no penalty. It's treated the same. Facebook doesn't care where you schedule it with. It's all about getting the content out there and getting engagement. Same with Twitter. Twitter doesn't punish it either. It's almost even on Twitter. And so, yeah, you got to schedule good content. That's the key. If you're just posting junk, then your engagement's on you, not on the app that published it.
Yeah, don't be a link litterer, folks. If you're listening into this and you're hearing anything that we're talking about, Scott Ayres here from Agora Pulse, don't post crappy content. Like, seriously, you don't have to promote every single thing that you do. You can pick the good stuff, because the good stuff means people are going to enjoy the good stuff. And they're not going to be like, well, I should unfollow him because the last 3 times he posted garbage. No, that one great post is the one you should focus on, and do more good stuff and less garbage stuff. Is that what you're finding in the social media lab, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the quality. What we do a lot is just seeing what little tactics might help you a little bit. If you use 4 hashtags versus 5, or if you put an emoji in it versus not, those are kind of the tactics and things we play around with to see. But in the end, I mean, it's about the quality of content. Like you said, focusing on that one good thing that works. And like for this, I haven't tested it. I haven't even written about this yet, but I talk about this guy all the time. I live in a small town in Texas, and there's a buddy of mine owns a pizza shop, Studebaker's Pizza, and made after the old Studebaker cars.
Yeah.
He made this. He started making this 28-inch round pizza called the Colossus. And the idea was, this thing literally, like in a box, barely fits in the back of my Suburban. It's massive.
Wow.
He wanted to do an eating challenge to see if anybody could eat this thing in an hour. And I'm like, dude, he got somebody to do it. And I'm like, dude, you got to go live on Facebook. And he's a guy in his late 40s. He's like, I don't know anything about social media. I don't know how to go live on Facebook. So I'm text messaging him, how to go live like 10 minutes before he's supposed to go, have this thing go. And he'd been talking about it on Facebook and on his personal and the business page has about 2,500 likes. He goes live, and at first it was 10 people watching, 15 watching, 20 watching. We're all commenting, and then suddenly it was 50, that was 100, 150, 200, 400, 500. This thing at one point got, I think, at live had about 2,500 consistent viewers, and they were from all over the world, not just our local area. We're a small town of about 8,000 people in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And there was people from all over the U.S., almost every state you could think of, people in France, Germany, Ireland, Australia. We're watching this guy, in the middle of Texas, try to eat this giant 7-pound pizza. And he didn't succeed. He got like halfway through, and then with like 3 minutes left, he ran out of camera and threw up, which was kind of funny. He didn't get it on camera live, unfortunately. But the cool thing was, of course, Gerald, his phone dies right at the end of the thing, and he messaged me afterwards like, I can't believe what just happened. And I'm like, dude, I've been telling you, I know what I'm talking about here, damn it. You got to do this stuff. And that video got like, I want to say around 11,000 views when it was all said and done for this little bitty nothing page. He didn't spend a dime, to do it. Did something most people don't get to see. That was kind of unique about it. And then the cool thing from there is, for one, he's sold a lot of these pizzas now. He's had about 6 people try to eat it, and they couldn't. And when you don't succeed, you got to pay the $60 for the pizza. So he's a win-win for him. But then the local news station in Waco, which is the bigger market next to us, there are about 150,000 people in Waco. They contacted him and said, hey, can our news anchor come out in the morning and we'll live broadcast for 2 hours from your place, and he'll try to eat it live on the air. So he gets this free publicity from this video of the local news station being there, and it went massive and viral. And, so much publicity that was complete. It didn't cost him anything. And now it's interesting to see every time he does a live video, it gets a couple thousand views when it's all said and done. Not as big as that first one. I don't know what happened on that, that caused it to do that. It's just trending, I guess. But it was one of those things that just shows you that, back to what you were talking when I started this, was the quality of content. It's something unique. It wasn't Studebaker's Pizza trying to sell you on buying this $60 pizza. It was just, hey, look, there's something cool, something unique. Come watch it with us and comment, cheer him on. He was doing a good job of that sort of stuff. And so that was, I think, a great example and a reminder for me, being on a bigger, picture and working for a lot of SaaS companies, going, okay, small guys can still do this and do it better at times. And so that's been a fun thing to kind of just see happen and be a part of. But it makes me go back to that quality is so much better than the quantity, and just getting mad because you post a link and 3 people click on it. They don't want to see links anymore on Facebook for the most part, unless you're paying for ads maybe. But in general,
well, even them, right? I mean, the thing is, if you're trying to drive people off of Facebook, you're basically turning them around and changing direction. It'd be like, I'm driving 100 miles an hour down the Autobahn, and suddenly I see a big billboard that says garbage, make a left here and go back 37 miles. It's like, Seriously, dude,
Yeah,
I don't give a crap how much you pay me for that. That just doesn't make sense. Now, if it's relevant, it says turn here and we'll give you a free lobster and steak dinner and wash your car inside and out while I'm here. Well, okay, that might get my interest.
yeah.
But that's quality content, right? This whole relevancy thing, Scott, I think that's what people miss. So talk to us a little bit more about some relevancy, because not everybody has a 60-inch pizza to talk about.
Well, that's true, but everybody's got something unique about their business that appeals to their audience. And I ran in the same little town. I've ran up until September. I had a local business. I started when I worked with Post Planner back in the day. I started a side business doing a bounce house, renting bounce houses and water slides. In Tampa, where you're at, water slides are huge there on the beach and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that as a side project because I have 3 kids and I got tired of renting them myself. And then it became this massive thing. I started with 5 units and ended up with about 40 units when it was all said and done. And it was a full big business. And the cool thing about that is it taught me a lot about what the small businesses really want to see and what that connection meant. I could post links to the bounce houses every day. Nobody gave a crap. Nobody clicked on it. No one went to it. I post a picture of kids smiling on a water slide. The thing gets a couple hundred likes on it, a bunch of comments, and people are sharing it because we were showing a human side. It was something they could relate to. Our target audience was moms, and so there was a lot of relevancy there in that content where the link, okay, sure. They'll go look at it maybe, or I post a video and they get a little bit, but the photos for me were crucial. I know, and something on the relevancy as well that I learned from that experiment. It was a 5-year experiment for me. I decided after 5 years, if I hadn't hit a certain profit level on a personal level, I would give it. I actually gave the entire business over to my brother recently, and he's running it now. Is not every social platform is meant for you. That business sucked on Twitter. It didn't do anything on Twitter. I spent, on Instagram, I probably spent, and over that 5 years, about $15,000 in Instagram ads and got 1 rental off of it. It wasn't worth my time. I grew a big following of about 5,000 random people in the area, but nobody was going to Instagram to go find a bounce house company. It was fun pictures, but nobody really was going, oh, yeah, by the way, I want to book. They were going to Facebook to book that or going to my website. And so it taught me a lot about I don't need to be everywhere. And every business, you need to find where your relevant audience is, and that's where you go. You may not need to be on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter. Just find whatever that is. And it may be one of the weird little sites on the side. Maybe you're a Twitch audience or something. I don't know. But find that audience and be relevant there and then grow that community. I think that's crucial for us, especially now. Social media's been around, Facebook's like 12 years old now. It may not be where you need to be as a person, an entrepreneur. Maybe you need to be elsewhere. So I think we're too scared of that, though, because we're like, oh, well, so-and-so's over there. I need to be there. Well, maybe you don't, and don't be scared to just ditch one of them and just focus on one and be relevant. I think that's the big, I think it's a great word. I'm glad you mentioned that because even though I test a lot of weird little things, it's not, the relevant content is the crucial part of it. Yeah. If the audience doesn't, relate to the content or isn't interested in it, it doesn't give a damn. It doesn't matter how many emojis I put in it or, how long. I'm testing right now long versus short form on LinkedIn. In the end, if it's not content that's relevant to that audience, it doesn't matter. Like on Agora Pulse's LinkedIn page, if I go on a long rant about the NFL, it's not relevant to that audience. They want to hear about social media. And so you got to make sure it's relevant, and it doesn't matter on the tactics. It's about the relevancy.
Yeah, absolutely. And as it relates to relevancy, that's the strategy piece, folks. That's choose your audience. I talked to Seth Godin earlier this week, and he said, the goal is to find your audience, be in love with your audience so that you can serve the crap out of them in a good way. You can do what they love because what's relevant. To Scott's point there, you're in Texas, so probably talking about the Cowboys is pretty good, but I'm up here in Tampa. Yeah, especially today after they beat the Saints, right? Yeah. So, but here in Tampa, nobody cares about the Cowboys. No, it's not because I don't. So that's everybody to me. So I'm just working by myself today. So everybody in my workspace doesn't care. But to that point, now if I'm going to have a conversation with Tim Sanders, I know Tim is a super duper Cowboy fan. I know that is super relevant for Tim, and Tim is going to love that. So if I'm choosing Tim Sanders as my audience, well, talking about the Cowboys is something I need to do today. If I'm talking to you, right, that might be really important.
Well, I do have a Dallas Cowboy tattoo on my arm, so yeah.
Do you?
I
You know,
do.
you can get that removed. I'm just saying. So
You could, but I'm not.
yeah. So we'll probably get some ads now for tattoo removal. So just know Scott's not interested in that.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah. So hey, man. So what are some other cool experiments that you're working on?
Some of the fun ones that I keep mentioning the emojis. It's a weird little thing to test. We thought at first, like, the idea of testing emojis on Twitter, on Instagram was just stupid. Like, why are we doing? The guy I do the podcast with, he's like, why are we testing emojis? This is the dumbest thing ever. But in the end, we're finding that there's a lot of relevancy for brands using emojis. There's a lot of people talking about it. So we've tested it a few times. I just got done testing it on emails, which was an interesting one to test because you hear a lot about. I haven't even published this one yet. You hear a lot about you're supposed to get 20% more open rate and click-through rates if you use emojis in your subject line. We basically found the opposite. It was actually, we had lower click rates and lower open rates, and we actually had the 60-second marketer, Jamie. He actually tested it with us, and he found the same results where he was getting lower open rates and lower click-through rates when he included emoji either at the beginning or end of the subject line. That goes against the grain of what a lot of people are teaching. And what happens in a lot of these things that we find, and the reason we want to test them is someone like you or I does something once and we go, hey, look what worked. Let's publish a blog post to get a lot of traffic because we're good marketers, but we didn't test it enough. And if you test it enough, then you can figure out the trends. Like the big one probably, and the one that's probably gotten me the most angry messages and emails was where you should put your hashtags on Instagram. A lot of people, and I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of people out there who will tell you to put your hashtags, and have been for years, telling you to put your hashtags in the comments on Instagram because it looks pretty. It doesn't, junk up the description. It looks nice and appealing. And so they've been teaching that for a long, long time. I've seen a lot of courses, including that. So I wonder if that's really true or not. And so we tested it, and this was an interesting one for me. When we put the hashtags in the comments versus the post, likes were almost 10% higher when we included the hashtags in the post, but reach was 29.41% higher when we put the hashtags in the original post. That's a massive difference. 29% is huge. They're the exact same hashtags. It was relevant content, relevant hashtags, so we didn't kind of skew it or anything. 29% is nothing to sneeze about. If it had been like 5%, even 10%, I'd be like, it could have been chance. And this is over about 100 posts, so in a couple of accounts. So it wasn't just one account. That tells me that there's something to that. And the reason what we realized looking back on it is a lot of people who've been teaching this are teaching off of the old algorithm on Instagram. The algorithm changes all the time. And it used to be on Instagram, whenever you put in a hashtag, even if it was in the comments, even if one of your followers put the hashtag in the comments, it would pop back up at the top of the explore option on Instagram. It's not the case anymore because Instagram is smart. They know, back to us being these, crafty marketers, they know how we game the algorithm. And they went, oh, wait a minute, you smart marketer. We're not going to let you do that anymore. So now the explore feed is 100% reverse chronological order based on when the post hit Instagram. So it doesn't matter when that hashtag came. If you want to get the exposure with the hashtag, you better do it right when you put the content out. Because if you wait 10 minutes, it's already gotten pushed down. No one's going to see it. And so that was an interesting one to play with, and people have pushed back on that one hard, probably harder than any other, because it is kind of that thing that a lot of big Instagram experts, quote unquote, have been teaching for a very long time. And so that's an interesting one for us to kind of put out there. And I would admit at first I didn't want to put it out there because I knew the backlash, from a couple of friends. We're going to be like, Scott, I've been telling people this for like 2 years. It's in my marketing, course. It's in that. Well, sorry, data doesn't lie. And I think that's crucial to learn, is that the data is the most important part of this, not what you think or what worked before, but what's working now.
Yeah, but super duper important point there is that the algorithms do change.
Oh, so
and
fast.
Our courses have to keep up with them. Our training has to keep up with them, because I know, if I talk about LinkedIn, because that's often what I end up talking about. If I talk about how LinkedIn was last year, LinkedIn was all about, totally different than it is now. LinkedIn, like day before yesterday, launched the fact that now I can upload a PDF, a Word doc, or a PowerPoint up to my staff.
You froze on me, Phil. Hope you come back.
So I'm still here.
Yeah, there you are. There you are.
Yeah, crazy. So to that point, right, the goal is to test and retest and follow people like you, man, because you run the stats for us, which I appreciate, because frankly, I don't have 1,000 Instagram posts to make. I don't think I've ever made 1,000 posts.
And that's the whole point of the whole social media lab is, Emmerich, our CEO, is like, there's a lot of decent content out there that drives traffic, but it's just a bunch of fluff. It's the 5 best things to post to here, the 10 best. Here's 10 marketers' opinion on this and this tool. But, we're dedicating it literally at least $15,000 a month, whether that's in salaries or, ads or whatever it is to test these different things. And, to your fact about LinkedIn, I'm starting to fall back in love with LinkedIn, right now, because all the changes they keep making and making it easier for me to want to be on there. So I think that's really cool that they keep adding all these cool features. We did a test on LinkedIn with Melanie Dodaro, who's like the queen of LinkedIn, and we did a test on. She was fine. She kept telling us like text only posts were getting her a lot more reach, which is like so much different. Our views, whatever you want to call it, on LinkedIn, so much different than all the other social platforms. I didn't really believe her. So we hopped on it and we did a test, and we found that when we compared link posts, photo posts, and text only posts, the text only posts got over 1,000% higher views across multiple accounts, different industries. And that was a shocker to us. And it made sense when we pull ourselves back. Then we go, okay, why is this the case? Just like the Instagram hashtag thing. LinkedIn is so different than Facebook. You're not posting typically. Now, there are some. I'm connected to about 9,000 people on LinkedIn, and I see random stuff. But most people aren't posting pictures of their kids and cat memes, on LinkedIn. They're posting stuff that's relevant to their industry. It's so industry focused that tends to be where it is. So the conversations are so much better on LinkedIn. And that's why the text posts, I think, do so much better there than on other places, because people are willing on LinkedIn to pause and talk about maybe you're like, I run an office from a guy who's in the recruiting industry and the construction business. And so, I follow a lot of those people because I've done some side work for him. Those people want to talk about construction, and they'll talk. I mean, they'll talk for days on a post. They don't care about the cat memes and the funny videos and, all the goofy stuff. They're there to talk about the industry, learn about the industry, enhance their careers. And so I think that's why LinkedIn is so much different. But they keep changing stuff and adding stuff to it that makes a lot of people who are, frankly pissed off at Facebook want to come back over there. Because of it. So I think we got to pay attention to it as businesses for sure.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm getting a notice that my network bandwidth is low, so I'm gonna sign off here. But Scott, tell people where they can find more of your awesome so they can get connected with you.
Yeah, you can go to agorapulse.com/social media lab. That's where you'll find our blog. If you listen to the podcast, just search social media lab. Look for this, for a guy with orange hair. That's our podcast. And we're at Agora Pulse anywhere on social media.
Awesome. Well, folks, hopefully you got some great value from this. I know I did. Scott, it's great that you're here, man. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hell yeah, man. So we'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah.
Scott?
Yeah.
Hey, man.